Join us live every Tuesday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on GluFM for Minding Your Business with me, Attorney Rishma Eckert, to discuss the law and your business. Email us with your questions at info@mybshow.com. And remember, success comes from minding your business. Welcome to another episode of Minding Your Business. I am your host, Rishma Eckert. I am an attorney with Eckert Law, PLLC. And yes, Happy New Year to everyone. We would like to wish our listeners a prosperous, productive, successful new year in any business venture that they may have. As Mark mentioned, we have a very special guest, and we'll leave plenty of time for him to be able to speak today, because today's topic is about monetizing your passion. And those are words that I have taken directly from Honorable Shyne. And we will get into how, I heard that from him in one of his other interviews. Before we get to that, remember to follow our Facebook page on Minding Your Business. That's at MYB Radio Show. And also you can follow me personally on IG and Twitter. My handle is at BizLawLady. I usually post flyers for the show and sometimes information about our guests, resources for small businesses, etc. We are continuing with our segment about small business spotlights for this year. And that is, the purpose of that is to be able to highlight businesses who had gotten affected by the pandemic. We want to give them an opportunity to be on the show, highlight your business, talk about your journey through entrepreneurship, which is what I try to focus on the show. We are in Florida, New York, Kentucky, the UK, Canada, parts of Africa, and parts of Asia. I don't think I missed anywhere. So this is definitely the opportunity for you to be able to have your products and your services out there and be able to really spotlight your business. We are also doing the Ask MYB segment again, where you can go ahead and email me at info@mybshow.com. And you can ask me to either repeat a topic that I've done before or answer questions on new topics as well. I love those the most because I get to really inform the listeners on a topic that they're interested in. My quote of the week, I chose today, "Hope springs eternal." And that is from Alexander Pope in his An Essay on Man. And I love this phrase. I probably say it about every other week or so. Hope springs eternal, because the new year, we talk about new hope, new possibilities, new opportunities. And that's one of the beauties of being a human in this space, is that we always have hope. And it's very apropos for business owners as well, because sometimes your first business venture might not work. You have setbacks, but you always have hope. And as long as you have hope, you have life.
That's right.
So not to take up any more time on my intros, I wanted to introduce you to a gentleman that I first met on a visit. I think it was 2018 or so. I went to Belize on a trade mission that my chamber was having, the Belize American Chamber of Commerce. And on that trade mission was a friend of the show, Andrea John Baptiste.
Yes.
And she also has a radio show called Synergy.
Yes.
And I listened to Honorable Shyne Barrow do an interview with Andrea, and he talked a lot about monetizing your passion. And afterwards, I went up to him and I said, "This is great. I love that approach," because a lot of our listeners are in the creative field and they feel, "Oh, I have this passion and it's inside of me. I just want to give it to the world." And they don't tend to monetize it. So I thought it was a great approach. At the time, Honorable Shyne Barrow was the music ambassador for Belize. So it was a very interesting take on the music industry on a whole. And I wanted him on my show so badly. And thank you for agreeing to do this, because I wanted, as you know, to be an inspiration to our listeners. The entire show that we created, Mark, is to be able to educate and inspire entrepreneurs. And a large part of our listening audience is in the creative world. So this is very much on target, and I appreciate it. So without further ado, Honorable Shyne Barrow, I will have you introduce yourself to our listening audience, for those of you who don't know who he is. Please go ahead, and thank you for being on the show.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. A pleasant
Pleasant good evening to all of the viewers tuning in all across the world, United States, and most importantly, Belize, as always. Yes, I am a member of the House of Representatives, a former leader of the opposition, as well as in my previous life, I was a Grammy Award winning writer, performer, and publisher. And as you noted, I was the ambassador
for
of music for the government of Belize from 2010 to 2020.
And it was very transformative, that era that you took up that post, because again, we're talking about monetizing your passion. And I like to talk to our guests about the journey that they've taken to entrepreneurship, regardless if it's what we consider traditional business, music industry, whatever path you choose, it's still a business. So I would like to get into that aspect of your life, if you don't mind. When did you know that you wanted to do music professionally? Because a lot of us, we sing in the shower, we write little ditties, we do our own thing. But how did you know that this was going to be the thing that you wanted to do professionally?
I think it was in 1997 is when I really I locked into this notion, this idea that I could be a commercial success. I think I wrote my first rap in like 1991. And before that, I wrote poetry. I believe rap is poetry. I was having that discussion with the ruler of Ras Al Khaimah in United Arab Emirates. He was asking me to try to, give him the difference between rap music and poetry, and I was telling him they're one and the same. But I started writing poetry, to young ladies that I fancied, and then.
That's how this started. I didn't know that. How interesting.
Those are poems. Those are the poems, the kind of poems that I would write. I was quite convincing and quite.
So it had already given you personal success before you had professional success.
Well, I don't know how successful I was. If effort was the measure of success, then yes, you could say I was more successful. But as far as the end result, it certainly did not always go the way that I envisioned it. Fortunately, in the hip hop world, it did. I did get the end result that I wanted. But so I would say, like in 1997, I remember my uncle Newton. He was one of my role models growing up in Brooklyn. And he was a successful educator. He worked at DeVry and worked his way up to being the president of different trade schools. And so I remember he had moved from New York to Boston, and we were driving from Boston to New York, and it was the end of the year. And, so they were having their, top songs of the year on one of the radio stations. And so I started, saying my rap. And, and he's a music connoisseur of music connoisseurs. He loves music. And so I would always get, the taste of new music from him, because back then it was CD players. There was no such thing as the internet. So in order to get new music, you got it from the radio, or you had to actually purchase the CD. So I remember rapping for him and him saying, wow, this is amazing. And he's not someone that would just tell me what I wanted to hear. So for him to give that stamp of approval certainly reinforced my conviction, that I could be a commercial success. So this was, I would say, like in 1996. But I wrote my first rap in like 1992. I think like my first year in high school, and throughout high school, I was very good in English. If I didn't pass any subject, I would always be in honors English. But 1997 was the year that, I knew I had that feeling of invincibility, and I just knew that I could be a commercial success like the people I would see on MTV and BET.
Yeah, that's great. And with the I was going to say that you're right. Back in the day, you really had to hustle differently to be able to have commercial success, because now everyone has a YouTube channel, everyone has a podcast, everyone, you get a chance to put your music out there. But back in the day, it was a closed world, wasn't it?
Well, I was, yes, the world was certainly not flat then, but the world is flat now as far as the connectivity and the access that people have to each other in all parts of the world, and certainly in different states and countries. But back then, you had to be discovered. Some A&R or some music executive, had to say, you know what, I think this kid is talented, and I'm going to give him a chance. Whereas today, really the world gets to decide whether or not you're talented. And once, enough people say that you're talented, then, the major record labels and distributors, that's when they come on board. So it's, to me, it's better because
I was just going to ask you your opinion on that.
If you're really talented, then, your talent is going to shine, no pun intended. And, the major distributors or major record companies will come on board, and you don't even necessarily need them. There was a successful producer and singer talking, the other day, and he was breaking down the numbers when he was signed to a major. Yeah. And the money he made being signed to a major, was minimal as opposed to, putting out the music himself, selling directly to the consumer. And he didn't have to, I was fortunate to sell 1 million records, both my albums, but I was only getting, maybe, I don't know, a couple pennies off the dollar from, those deals. Maybe I'd get a big advance. I think, maybe my I was very fortunate, my advances have always been in the millions. But in today's world, nobody's giving you millions of dollars advances unless you're Drake or Kanye. Yeah. And those are proven, hit makers from even back in my era. But the new artists that are coming out have to be established, have to have traction, have to have an audience before anyone is even going to look at you. And then by that time, you could very well say to yourself, well, why do I need a major? Why do I need a distributor? I'll just keep selling to myself, which many artists have done with success. So, there's just such greater opportunity now to be a creative, certainly in the music realm, than ever before.
That was actually going to be my question, my follow-up question to you. What do you consider better for the artists? We know what's better for the industry. We know what's better for the labels, but what do you consider better for the artists in terms of getting their music out there? Do you go ahead with the bigger establishments, or do you do more grassroots and, like you said, get your music out there and create interest that way?
Well, independence is always better. Being an entrepreneur is always better. That's always the route that I would recommend. But, you have to be very honest with yourself, and you have to, take stock and do, analysis and examine where you are, and, whether or not you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur and to really go out there and work and do it yourself. It's always the best way. Yeah. But everyone doesn't, have that drive and that work ethic and that discipline.
Yeah. So I definitely want to double down on that, because one of the things I wanted to talk about on the show is that people see a Grammy Award-winning artist, they hear about the millions of albums sold, but rarely do we have an occasion where people talk about the back-breaking work that it gets to be in there. So you talk about the poetry, you talk about your first rap. What was I don't want to say struggle, because not everything's a struggle, but what was the journey like to be able to go from that, look, I can do this commercially, I really have a talent here, to getting what you would consider your first big break?
Well, it's surreal, the parallels between my political career and my music career. And if there's one thing I could give to your audience,
Yeah.
the theme between both of my careers and successes, the theme has been a relentless hunger and pursuit to accomplish, my objective, to follow through on accomplishing my ambition. I remember, I was working in Mesopotamia for 7 years. And I remember, as we got down to like the last 2, 3 years before the elections, I used to say that, I will walk from Belize City to Belmopan to go swear in. That is how determined I am. That is how driven I am. And, so I used to walk up and down in my constituency every day, and I put in so much work. And had I not done that, I would have lost, because it was a tsunami. Yeah. And people that have been there forever, that had never lost their seat, lost, and people who we never heard of, won. So it just goes to show that the Belizean people wanted to change. But the point is, I was determined. There was nothing else I wanted more than to officialize my service to the people of Mesopotamia, because I had already been serving them, but it wasn't official. Right. So in music, that was the same determination and hunger that I had. And I'll give you an example when I say determination and hunger. I remember one day I was supposed to go to Manhattan. I lived in Brooklyn, in Flatbush, and I was supposed to go to Manhattan to the studio. And, back then, token, they didn't have Metro cards, they had tokens. And so a token was, $3 to go and come, $1.50. So you would have to get 2 tokens. It wasn't like a round trip token. So I had only bought my token to go. And, so I was coming back, and I remember a homeless person, had asked me for charity. And I was always very big on that as a kid. Some way, somehow, God, revealed the secret to success, which was to give to people and to help people. I really believed in that, even with the little that I had. So I had $1.50. And so I had walked past this homeless person, and then I got to a block, and, I walked back, and I said, listen, I have a dream, and I want to be, a successful rapper. And the chances of me doing that is like Bolito. It's like, Mega Bingo. And, but I know God is watching, and I know, the universe is watching. And the same way this homeless person could be an angel that was, taking records of how human beings treat other human beings, and is going to go to heaven and tell God, that kid that wants to be a rapper just walked past me and didn't even look at me. Right. And you know what? I only had $1.50 to get home. So, maybe they wouldn't take it, that personal that I didn't help. But I said, you know what? If I give my $1.50 and I'm going to walk home, that is to show that, the 2 most important things, which is determination and giving, I would have accomplished that, and I would have invested into my future by giving to this person in need, because I'm going to make a sacrifice. And sacrifice is the only way to success. It's the greatest investment that you could ever make. So I gave the homeless person the $1.50, and I walked home, but I walked home with a purpose. I walked home knowing that I had just done something that was transformational, because I made a great sacrifice. I lived in the center of Brooklyn, and I walked from the center of Manhattan. But I walked with the adrenaline of knowing that I made an investment into my future, because I put good energy out there, and that karma was going to come back to me. But that's how hungry, I was, and how determined I was.
Well, I love that story. I haven't heard you tell that story ever before, I don't think, on any interviews. I just want to take a break to let you guys know that you can call or text your questions live on air by calling or texting 862-215-3979 or 646 888-742-7324. Thank you for that. And I like the fact that you talk about the determination and the hunger, because I see different types of artists, and I have a lot of them consult with me as well. Some of them talking about, well, a lot of them have an idea of, well, my music speaks for itself, and maybe this is the newer accessibility generational music. Well, my music speaks for itself. If they like me, they'll come correct, and they'll pursue me. What do you have to say to younger artists that might not necessarily understand that getting 20 no's doesn't mean that it's necessarily something that you don't want to pursue, and that you have to have some level of, I want to say, like, humility, or knowing that you're starting here, but you want to get here. To endure that struggle that you're talking about. It seems like you were already there with that mindset, but some people are not there.
My mindset was one of determination, iron will, and great discipline. And I understood how the universe worked as far as sacrifice. So I was prepared to sacrifice everything in order to get to where I needed to go. And so that was my mindset every day. So, I graduated from high school in 1997. And when I graduated from high school, the first thing I did, because, I had made a promise to my mom that I wasn't going to sell drugs, and I wasn't going to engage in criminal activity. And, that's why I didn't hop the turnstile when I didn't have that dollar. And I walked home because I promised my mom that I would do things the right way.
Right.
So what I did when I graduated high school is I got I borrowed a bicycle from my cousin, Ron Du, and 18-speed bike, and I started delivering packages in Manhattan. I was a delivery boy. And so I used to go to Def Jam. I used to go to Universal Music Group. I used to go to Sony. And, every day I used to ride up the Brooklyn Bridge and ride, up and down. And that's when I used to come up, with my greatest raps. Because, again, I was making a sacrifice. So many of my friends were selling drugs. So many of my friends were committing crimes as, a means to an end. And, again, I made the sacrifice to my benefit, in hindsight. But at that point, you're a young kid, you're trying to figure out which way you're going to go. But I had figured out that I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to go to an early grave, and I didn't want to break my mom's heart. So anyway, I would be, riding my bicycle all across Manhattan, making the sacrifice, being determined. And I'll never forget, one day it was raining. And if you don't go to work when it rains, or you leave work when it rains, that's it, you're fired. And I was on Barrack Street, right in front of Def Jam. And, I was soaking wet because, I just started working. I didn't have the proper rain gear. And, I was drenched. And I remember delivering a package and a girl looking at me, like grabbing the sign sheet and looking at me like I was a scourge to society. And I went outside and I was like, man, I want to go home. And, a voice told me, remember the discipline, remember the sacrifice. You're almost there. Like, you're not going to be delivering packages much
forever.
Longer. Keep going. This is all a part of the journey. This is all a part of the sacrifice. So for those, people, young people, or, whatever age people that feel, they're going to come to me, nothing is going to come to you. You have to go out there and you have to get it. You have to take it, and you have to be relentless. And your pursuit, for your ambition, for your passion, for your dream has to be relentless. You can never stop. And once you're passionate about something, I feel that's why I say, monetize your passion comes from, well, first of all, you have to be passionate about whatever it is you're doing. But once you're passionate about it, then certainly you should monetize. But I was passionate about music, and, God blessed me with all of the ingredients that I needed to get to the point that I got to, which was being in a barbershop. After riding from delivering packages all day, I rode to the barbershop, locked my bike up on the tree, and went to get my haircut. And, as always, I would rap for my barber and the other barbers. And, the barbershop is where truth exists. Undisputed truth, unfiltered truth. So when you would rap there, they would tell you, you need to keep delivering messages. It's terrible. Or they would say, you're great.
You have something, yeah.
Yeah, you're better than these guys on TV. And
Yeah.
they used to tell me, oh man, Shyne, I'm telling you, you're better than those guys on TV. And that means a lot coming from the barbershop, because the barbershop, especially in that neighborhood, nobody, is telling you what you want to hear. And I'll never forget that day, a gentleman just finished getting his haircut. And I finished getting my haircut, and he was walking out, and I walked out behind him. I said, listen, are you in the music industry? And he said, Brooklyn is a dangerous place. Flatbush, Church Avenue is dangerous. So when people come up to strangers, it's not always, the guy was like, well,
who are you and why are you?
Yeah, I'm in the music industry, like, wondering if I was going to try to rob him.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, man, I'm the best I'm the best rapper you're ever going to hit. And I started rapping for him, and he was like, oh my goodness, you're incredible. Hold on. And he called, a very prominent, music manager who was managing Foxy Brown and had worked, with the Notorious B.I.G. and Jay-Z. And then we went to meet that guy. But what I'm saying is, that all is a thread of, remember, I wanted to stop delivering messages, but I didn't stop delivering. And after delivering messages all day, exhausted, I used to go to university, New York University, Technical University. I'm not sure how do you arrange those words, but New York Tech in Brooklyn. And so I used to deliver messages and go to school in the evening, because I understood that music was not definite. So I had to continue, my pursuit of higher education, just in case it didn't work out. And so my discovery came from, going to the barbershop after delivering messages. And that's where I got my break. So had I given up, delivering the messages and maybe, got into something else, who knows, if I would have gotten that opportunity. Because when you press reset, you got to start again. But if you keep going, and Kanye and I, we were having that conversation in the Caribbean Sea, on New Year's Eve. Yep. And, I was explaining to him and my good friend James Prince and Prince's son that, for every day for the last, I would say 23 years, particularly because that has been the period where I've had the greatest struggles and the greatest triumphs and the greatest challenges and the greatest, accomplishments. But I was there every day. I never pressed reset. I never started over. I kept going no matter what. And so that is something that I encourage all, creatives to do. You have to keep going, and you have to remain determined, because there's no such thing as luck. You're not going to get luck. You're not going to get lucky. Luck is really people who keep going, who are relentless, who are determined, who are disciplined, who are driven, and who are prepared and ready for the opportunities that the universe has in store for you.
That's exactly right. What's the saying? That luck is preparedness meets opportunity.
Absolutely.
So that is entirely correct. I love that story, because I feel like regardless if you're in the creative world or whatever industry you're in, as long as you have a craft that you hone in on, don't feel as if this is the only, like you've reached a pinnacle. You always keep going as well. That's why
even today, the secret to my success is you have to today. I'm trying to remember who said it, but I feel the same way. But someone who's extremely successful, they say that every day, every time they go in the studio, every time they do whatever they do, they treat it like it's the first time. Mm-hmm. They treat it like it's the first time, like it's the first album, like it's the first, hit record, it's the first concert. Because once you lose, that excitement and that drive and that commitment to excellence and that commitment to giving your all, then you become mediocre. Then you fall off, and then you begin to fail. So for people who are attempting to to hone their craft and to actually become successful at their craft, certainly they should not expect that anyone or anything is going to come to them regardless.
Correct.
Don't fool yourself. Don't think that because you're on Facebook and you're on Instagram or you have a song on iTunes mean that you've actually accomplished something. I know that there was a musician in Belize that said, oh, well, because I did a distribution deal with Universal with 5 of our greatest artists, Super G, Stig, TY, and Deja. And I'm working on, because I wanted to be very diverse. So I'm working on a Spanish artist. I'm not going to say her name yet.
Okay.
We finalize our deal, but I'm working on a Spanish artist in Orange Walk in the North. But I one of the artists who wasn't a part of the deal said, oh, anybody could put their music on iTunes. That is true, but not anyone is going to, get, 1 million streams, or, is going to be able to access, or have the opportunity, to present what they have through marketing and promotion and radio, to a vast audience. So not because you uploaded your song to iTunes and to Google Music and to whatever other streaming platforms there are means that you made it. You have to see the results of that. Let's see how many people are consuming your product. And then you can say to yourself, based on the bottom line, based on the figures that you've invested into creating your product and what it is that you're generating, what your net is and what you're walking away with, then you can determine what type of impact, you're having.
And even when you get to the point where you feel like you've made it, there's always another benchmark above that, and above that, and above that.
Definitely. Yeah. One of the best books I read was Michael Eisner. He was the CEO of Disney, and again, that was his mentality as well. He said that his secret to success is no matter what great accomplishments he's had, no matter how great the year has been, he always considers himself number 100, even if he's number 1. So no matter how triumphant he's been or he is, he'll consider himself, no, I'm 50% or no, I'm 20%, so that he can, keep pushing for another 80%.
Exactly.
That might not even be there. You might just be at the 100% that you are, but certainly if you don't look at it that way, you run the risk of decreasing, the 100%. So certainly, you should never stop, and it really is a gift, and really is an art to know how to remain motivated and to remain inspired and to keep aspiring. And one of the words that you use that is key to that is humility.
Absolutely. And to sort of translate this to the world that I'm in the legal world, my clients will ask me all the time whether or not I do a lot of contract writing for my work. And every single contract I write for every single client, I do the research, even though I know it. I always verify and I always research, because like Michael Eisner, I know what I'm doing, but you always have to motivate yourself. What if there's something new that came out? What if there's another benchmark? What if I found a better way to do it the next time? You can't always just bank on what you have. You always have to try to achieve more. And what else was I going to say about that? The motivational part, the sacrifice part, the humility part, it's all a package. And my dad used to always tell me that basically it's like you have a responsibility that if you've been blessed in life, to bless others as well. Amen. And I would see him walk into the courthouse in Belize when I used to intern for him, if you could even call it that, because I didn't really do a lot of work, but I used to follow him around as a teenager to learn from him. And he would stop and he would help as many people as he could from the journey we would walk to the courthouse, and he would stop and help people. And as a young teenager or brat, I guess, I would say, why are you doing this? And you're going to be late. And why are we stopping for everyone? And that's when he would tell me, if you're given a lot and a lot is expected of you, and you should always turn that around. turn it
Amen.
into a blessing for someone else. So I definitely vibe with you on that. Um, getting back to the monetizing your passion, one of the things that I wanted to mention to you and get your thoughts on is that it is unbelievable to me that when I work with certain artist reps here, so I write their contracts and I do various trademarking and copywriting and stuff like that for them. They always have they tell me that their specific artists that they're representing feel like everything that I'm doing in the business world, the formal contracts, the trademarks, the copyrights, that it's just too much. It's too corporate. It's too structured. It's too business-like. And they're doing this songwriting or this painting or whatever it is that they're doing it because it's their passion and they don't necessarily want to put it in a corporate structure. And that really upsets me because I'm thinking, if you don't put it in a corporate structure, you don't protect yourself, you leave yourself exposed for a lot of infringement, you leave yourself exposed for contract violations, etc. So I always have this conversation with the artist rep so they can have it with their artists. What are your thoughts on this? Is my passion, I'm in the creative world, I don't necessarily want to structure anything. How do we get, I guess selfishly, how do I get them to the point where they recognize that you really have to structure and monetize your passion in a way that works for you?
Well, I totally appreciate where creatives come from and the fact that, they don't live in a corporate mindset.
Not even a little bit, not even a little tiny bit.
There are creatives like myself and Jay-Z and Diddy and many, Dr. Dre and 50 Cent and many of us who are, we are creatives, but we're also corporate.
Exactly.
Definitely, thanks to people like Russell Simmons and Eazy-E and Jimmy Iovine, who are creatives that, created corporate entities. So certainly I always encourage, creatives that, discipline, corporate discipline, having, a business mind is a necessary evil. For me, I love it. I'm an entrepreneur. I love things myself. I love having ownership. I love having, power over my art and my creativity. Is very important. I think it allows me to be more creative when I can make, creative decisions because I'm a partner who has the authority, as opposed to, just being a creative and not worrying about any of that stuff. I get why some creatives are in that space and they just don't want to deal with it.
I don't get it at all.
Definitely, no, I get it. So what they need to have people around them that have that designation that will deal with that. Because I get it. No, there are people who they're just creative and they just want to create. The business aspect is a necessary evil, but it's necessary. And so it's important for them to have someone on their team that, listen, you deal with that stuff and make sure that you deal with it, and I'll be creative. And so sometimes you have partnerships where, you'll form a company and, okay, well, I'll do the creative and you do the business, but you're still a partner, you still have ownership, and, you still get, to monetize your passion. Whereas if you don't have anyone on your team thinking that way, then, I don't know how far you're going to go, because you can't just be creative and you probably get exploited. You probably end up, having terrible deals and not monetizing your passion and just be in a bad place. So I definitely feel the pain of the creatives who don't want to deal with it, but you have to have someone on your team that you trust who will deal with it.
Right, because in my mindset is that if you're not putting a structure together, then how do you assess success, quote unquote success? How do you assess what it is that you're trying to get out of a specific project? What is it that you're getting out of a song? How are you able to track? So maybe I'm coming from a too structured corporate mindset, and I don't understand.
You're coming from a healthy place, but you just have to understand that, creatives are coming from their place as well, which is to create.
And
so
a
the
big
best advice you could give them is to have someone on their team who could be a bridge, who could be a liaison between the structured corporate world and the creative world. But it's a necessary evil. They're doing themselves a disservice if they don't at least have someone who's going to be the liaison to deal with that stuff that they trust and they have full confidence in.
Absolutely. And one of the, I guess one of my people that I always call and relate to is my younger sister, who is a very, very good artist. Artie is a fabulous artist. And every time I see her paintings or something that she's just doodled, I think, we need to sell this. We need to put it, I need to copyright it. We need to make sure we get it done. And she always tells me no, because she's just painting for the fun of it. And we always have this back and forth. And I'm thinking, okay, if you were pursuing this as an actual business, then I would push harder on the corporate side. But she has an actual job at a company. So she's doing it as a hobby, which on this show we talked about having a hobby versus starting a business. So she's one of the people who also I would call and say, can you believe this artist doesn't feel like they need any structure because they're doing it for the love that's inside of their hearts and their souls? And she goes, yeah, I understand that completely, because in her heart and soul, she's an artist as well. But I take her point, and having an AR is good. Having a manager is good. Definitely having a corporate law attorney on your side is good. All those things to help you structure. You can focus on the passion part of it, and someone else can focus, someone you trust, as you mentioned, can focus on going ahead and putting that plan into place. We have 2 questions that came in. The first one says, and this is the first time I'm reading them as well. Does Google weigh each project for certain criterion before the monetization efforts becomes public, or is it the responsibility on the presenter to build contents of interest?
I'm not familiar with the entire process of content creation and monetizing that in Google.
Yeah, that.
Quite frank.
Yes.
I have a general understanding of the benefits of content creation and promoting and marketing yourself on the internet and all of the different platforms such as Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, etc. I know how important it is, but as far as the details, how Google, manages the monetization, I couldn't answer.
Listener, neither do I. Perhaps that would be more of like a technical Google question, like just not meaning to Google the question, but technical for Google and their policies to figure that out, because the Honorable Shyne is not a Google representative, so he doesn't know the ins and outs of what that criteria should be. But, it's worth researching so that you can have a better idea come, in ways that you want to go ahead and put forth your effort. The second question is, exactly what should be the day-to-day responsibilities of a person pursuing a monetization plan for their art?
I think we just laid out that entire roadmap. You got to assemble a team, and you have to understand in today's market, you have to be the record label. Like even the deal that I did with the artist here in Belize, I didn't do an artist deal. I did a distribution deal. Mm-hmm. And the difference between Universal Music Group and, TuneCore is the difference between, the Brooklyn Nets, the LA Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, and, a F League or E League or a D League. It is what it is. The type of marketing and promotion that you'll get from UMG is second to none. And, with the other platforms, you're paying $30 and they're just going to put your stuff there. You got to pay for advertising. You got to pay for marketing. And if you don't do that, then your music is on iTunes, but who knows?
Yeah. And that's right.
So what you have to do on a day-to-day is you have to be the company. And as I said, if you just want to be a creative, then you'll be in the wilderness. So you better put a team together and you better say, you know what, I want to be the creative, but I understand that, we're in the wilderness right now, and it's up to us to make noise and to get traction and to, to get attention to my product, to my creativity. And the way you do that is by assembling a team. You got to assemble someone who's going to deal with marketing and promotion, digital. Everything is digital. Everything is online. All of the conventional media platforms, they've all gone digital. All the newspapers, they've all gone digital. So, you need a digital person, you need a content creator, someone who's good with a camera, to capture all that you're doing. You need to create an experience. That's what people are buying now. People aren't just buying a song. People are buying the experience. That's why people are on TikTok. People are on, all these different platforms, Facebook, Instagram Live, Twitter, because that interaction, that human interaction has value. Whereas before it was just about the song. And, artists would dodge the press and, you could just be a recluse, but just make great music and people would buy it. Whereas today, you really got to create an experience. So certainly you got to assemble a team, with trusted advisors, trusted content creators, trusted digital masters, trusted legal experts, trusted accountants, trusted, marketing and promotion people, trusted radio people, trusted producer, trusted studio engineers. You got to have your team. If you don't have your team and you're waiting for someone, to come to you and give you that team, you're wasting your time, or you're going to be like your sister, who just does it because she loves it, and be happy with that. And God bless you.
Yeah, and that's a great answer, because really it's a team effort for any sort of business that you run. Even if you are we talk a lot about sole member LLCs on the show. Even though you're running a business by yourself, you do have your CPA, you have your insurance broker, you have your marketing person.
I think that's the point. As a creative, you are a business. And I've been saying this for years. In my music business conference that I used to have every year, I used to tell the artists to sign up to the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and to sign up to the Belize service providers, because musicians are service providers and musicians are business. And you have to look at yourself like that, because if you don't, you're just going to be there and you're going to complain and you're going to be bitter and you're going to be frustrated, and nothing is going to happen. So it's not even a matter of a team. To me, a team is, no, it's not a team. You're a business.
You're the CEO, president.
Yes,
you are.
Yes, right. And so you have to hire, your staff. You have to, have partnerships. Whether it's you be the CEO, someone else is a COO, someone is a president, someone is a VP, and then you fill out all of those, those vacancies as far as the aforementioned that I, described. So it's not like, oh, my team. No, you're a business. You're
the head, and you're the head of it. You're the face of it.
That's the world. That's the world that we live in now. If you don't know that you're the business, then you're wasting your time. If it is that you think somehow monetization is going to happen without you, assembling your business team, your staff, your partners, it's not just going to happen.
Indeed. And to answer your question again, listener, you want to know day-to-day responsibilities of that person. As the CEO of your own business, you have to create that for yourself. So you have to know what's lacking, put a to-do list together. I'm a big to-do list.
First thing, you got to have your staff. And once you have your staff, then everyone has to execute every day.
Right.
So radio has to do radio every day.
That's right.
Promo and marketing has to do promo and marketing every day. Online marketing and digital expert has to do that every day. Content creator has to do that every day. The producer has to be producing music every day. The engineer has to be making sure that the music is sonically, superior. So everyone has to do their job every day. And unlike I wouldn't say unlike, but I guess there are certain jobs that are 9 to 5, 8 to 5. Creatives, like politicians, my job is forever. I was on vacation, and I stole 40 minutes from my family to drive to see one of my political colleagues to talk politics, because politics, no matter what, during the vacation, I was sending people financial aid, right. Different types of aid, Christmas.
It's a 24/7 job.
And so creative is the same thing. There's no 9 to 5. Like, it's all the time. It's 24 right. hours. You'd be lucky if you get a couple hours sleep. So it's not what you do every day, it's what you do in those 24 hours, which, probably 3 hours of the 24, you might get to sleep.
And that continues too, not just until you have your big break or that you feel like you've made it or you have success. This is a continuous thing because as we talked about on the show, that benchmark keeps moving in terms of success once you've had that success.
Until
a little taste. Until you retire, you're like, I've had enough. I'm done. I want out.
And hopefully you can retire comfortably and sell your catalog and just
and then invest in more businesses.
And move to Belize.
Move to Belize, of course.
Buy a private island or build a house in Placencia or one of
that's the dream.
Please, and just relax and just
that's definitely the dream. We have a saying on this show, and I say it all the time, that your net worth is your network. Mm-hmm. Right? So we say that all the time on this show, because even though you feel like you talk about taking a break to go discuss politics with another politician in Belize, you constantly have to create that environment for yourself for success.
Yeah.
Because had you not approached that guy in the barbershop, you just never know where your value can come from.
That's why I said you have to be present every day. And so you have to be present every hour, but every day is the day, and you got to make 24 hours count.
So I'm going to ask you this question. I don't know if you've addressed it on any other show before. So you talk about an artist is for life. Are you creating more music?
Well, I am. I do have a movie, a bio movie, a bio documentary, and a TV series, a bio TV series, all in the works that will be accompanied with albums inspired by those projects. But, it'll be very exclusive in the sense of, I'm not a recording artiste, but I'm a curator of my legacy is how I look at it. So, I have to create a documentary, a definitive documentary about Shyne. I have to create a definitive movie about Shyne, and I have to create a definitive TV series about Shyne. And it would be a disservice to the legacy not to attach, albums inspired by those projects. So, it'll be basically the conversation that we're having now would be what my albums would sound like, because I'll be curating, the entire Shyne experience up to date, presently, and with some retrospect, introspect, and prospectus.
How do you balance being an artist with everything else you have going on?
Well, I'm not an artist. That's why I just said to you. I'm just.
Oh, you're just okay. Got it.
It's my legacy is important. Let me.
Yes and no. Because you are.
Yeah, I'll always be an artist, but first and foremost, I'm a servant. I'm a member of the House of Representatives that's elected to serve the people of Mesopotamia and to serve the country of Belize. So I'm not an artist because I'm not in artist mode. That's not what I do. That's not what I think about.
Gotcha.
That's not my passion. I'm interested in helping other artists, but I'll always be an artist, but that is not my passion right now. My passion is Belize and how I can help Belize and how I can develop Belize, transform Belize, and help the other artists in Belize. That certainly is still a passion to help other artists.
Absolutely.
So the projects, I've all, for 20 years, I've had a publishing company. I've had a film company. I've had, a record label, for the last, 20 years. So, I still have assets that need to be, managed and exploited.
Right.
And certainly, I have what you would call legacy assets now. So certainly, as the CEO of Shyne Incorporated, and just as a prudent manager of the Shyne legacy, it's important to do these projects. So it's not like I said, it's not like I'm going to be putting out an album every year. And these, with the exception of the TV series, which will probably run for a few seasons, God willing. The projects are one-offs. I mean, certainly my life is evolving, and it's getting greater and greater. So there may be need for other projects, but as far as creating an album, it would have to be inspired by one of these very special projects that puts into perspective my legacy and how that legacy is growing, and where that legacy may be in 5 years or 10 years. It may be a point where I'd say, I don't feel like rapping. For these projects, I feel like it's not rapping, it's curating. I have to curate it, but I don't know if 10 years from now I'll feel the same way.
Back to that poetry again, we come full circle, right? Because that's an expression of your soul with the poetry. And I'll give it to you. No matter what people say, I always say Shyne shows up. He's always respectful and polite. And he definitely has a way with words.
Yes, he does.
I give it to you.
It does.
I give that to you for sure.
That's why I never listen to what people say. That's another thing for people out there who are, starting and beginning. Definitely don't listen to what anyone says, because if you listen to what anyone says, you'll never make it.
Right, and you'll never even get started sometimes, right?
Listen to the voice. People. Listen to the voice inside, and listen to God. God bless you all.
Yeah, I really, really admire your delivery. Very good, very concise.
Yeah. Thank you.
That way with words, that English, that poetry, yes. It definitely comes through in the way that you speak. And as a fellow wordsmith, I definitely appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want you to give just the last word. I don't know if you want to put out your contact information for your socials, whatever you want to say. This is your
everyone that hasn't been to Belize, all of your non-Belizeans, please visit Belize. You can follow me at Shyne _BZ, which will show you how beautiful Belize is, or visit Belize now at Visit Belize Now, or on my Facebook, Honorable Shyne Barrow, LOO, MP, Mesopotamia. So just visit Belize. Those are my last words. Visit Belize. Belize is paradise.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show. I know Mark was very excited to have you on the show.
Happy New Year for everyone. Prosperous, healthy, happy 2022. God bless everyone.
Thank you so much. So for my wrap up, guys, I want to say my bottom line for today: when you're monetizing your passion, it means that you are working hard towards your talent. It means that you are curating your talent. It means that you're doubling down on everything that you need to do as the CEO, president, head of your own company. As Honorable Shyne said, you are the company. That is you. You are the thing that you're putting out there, yes. The service, the product, and you have to curate it in that way. Work diligently and every day. I like that question about the day-to-day responsibilities, because yes. Treat it like a company. Everyone in their company has their to-do list of things that they need to get done. You do that. You have benchmarks for your success. You exceed those benchmarks and create more, and you work hard and you be diligent, because success comes when you're minding your business. The content on Minding Your Business is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific legal advice. This show discusses general legal issues affecting business owners. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily that of the show. If you need assistance with your specific legal issue, please consult with a licensed attorney.